He don't. He wouldn't mind daddy's. His daddy always bought his. I did see him buy Brock's one time. Right by him.
Was buy him a happy meal.
Doesn't say on here who the appointment for the,
It does on the slide though.
it does, and it's the same one John.
Realtor.
That way, turns out to be a,
We know who to pinpoint. Yes.
A little bit more concerned.
Yeah. A good lady.
I'd like to call this, whoops, let me put on my microphone. Over fear. I'd like to call this meeting of the Whitfield County Board of Commissioners meeting to order for the 10th of July, 2023. All that can stand, please do, if you're able, for our invocation and followed by the pledge.
let us pray. Our most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we just thank you for all the blessings that you have bestowed upon us. And in this month of July that we've just celebrated, the 4th of July, dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this country. We just thank you for the men and women who have served and continue to serve to protect our freedoms, dear Heavenly Father. And we just ask that you watch over them in a special way. Dear Heavenly Father, just be with us and guide us, love us. We appreciate what you do for us. We love you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May the record reflect we have all 5 commissioners present and our quorum is met. The commissioners and the public were made aware of the agenda approximately 4 days ago, a little bit delayed with the 4th of July last week. There are a couple of additions. One, we have a Board of Appeals appointment to replace someone who's resigning. We have an opioid settlement expenditure item, and we need to remove, and we need to add one for our CFO has changed from Carol to Debbie. We need to change a bank OZK signature authority on that. Then we need to remove ACCG presentation. They're going to reschedule for August. And there was one potential item that we're also not doing, number 1. So 3 additions, the Board of Appeals, opioid settlement, and bank authorization for Debbie Godfrey. Any other changes or questions about the agenda? Is there a motion to approve the agenda with those changes? Motion by Commissioner Jones. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Robbins. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 4-0 vote. There are a couple regular items of the consent agenda for our purchasing and budget amendments from our last meeting, and that's all. The minutes were also sent out last week. You want to have a chance to look over the minutes, any corrections or changes to the minutes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes from our May meeting? Motion by Commissioner Thomas. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Staton. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 4-0 vote. All right, we have our employee recognition. If Investigator Ronnie Morris can come forward with the sheriff. Yeah, take the microphone and tell us a little bit about you.
I guess.
If you got a speech ready, we can't wait to hear it.
I mean,
I usually make him talk. He's got to earn his money.
More than happy to turn over to Detective Morris. Detective Morris has been with us for about 16 years and does an excellent job to start with as far as an investigator. Our newly appointed district attorney, Ben Kinmer's here, and I think he would echo my words that he's primarily our child abuse investigator, sexual and physical child abuse investigator, and does an excellent job on that. But about the first week in June, second week, there he was following up with cases as investigators do. He was out on the west side and was right on top of a call when 911 put out a call that a 2-year-old had fallen in a swimming pool unconscious, and they had pulled him out at the time. Detective Morris was literally right on the scene, ran into the house, and fortunately with our body cams that all officers wear now, all this is caught on tape. So Detective Morris immediately started applying CPR. He was the first responder on the scene. Another deputy showed up. Fire department showed up just a few minutes later. But Detective Morris started the CPR on the body cam that you can see. You can hear the compressions going. You hear the gurgling of the water in the baby. You hear the baby literally cough up the water and all. I think my understanding, Detective Morris, correct me, the baby was sent to T.C. Thompson or the Children's Hospital in Chattanooga to monitor overnight, but has made a full recovery. Everything was good, but truly, we recognize Detective Morris for his true life-saving efforts. I recognize that that's our job. We don't do it every day as far as saving a life, literally saving a life, but on that particular day, the family was more than grateful. They didn't have the words that they saved a 2-year-old
Those are
child.
the kind of stories that don't end well, but you
That's right.
made it end well, so
So,
thank you so much.
For that, he was
Congratulations. We have our normal employee of the month. But just like our firefighters, we've got a special plaque for saving a life of Whitfield County and the future of Whitfield County. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And I always fail to recognize, but his family is with us, and his supervisor, Sergeant Cameron Cox, is with us in the back, so we have
You
good
want
support.
all them to come up? You want the family to come up?
Emily?
Yeah, come on up here.
Quick picture.
There you go. You can hold one of those flags. There you go. Good job. Great work.
And we got
Yeah.
from last month. We got one from last month,
We do?
Public Works. He wasn't here last month.
He came the previous month.
Did he come the previous
Yeah.
month? Okay. I
He
thought-
did miss one, you're right, but he came then. We got him. As far as I know. All right, the next, I'd like to declare a public hearing open for alcohol and beverage permit. We've got two tonight, one on South Dixie, Bill's Grocery, and one on Cleveland Highway, the Family Dollar Store. Anyone would like to speak in favor of either one of these two applications? Or if the owners are here, please come forward. Does anyone like to speak in opposition to either one of these two applications? Feel free to come forward. Going once. All right, I will close the public hearing on the alcohol permit. All right, this is the part where we just do our regular reports as far as each commissioner. And I like to remind everyone what our strategic goals are for 2023 for upgrading and improving our communication, modernizing government, renewing on better paying jobs, lowering property taxes, and improving our city and county teamwork and communications. I know a lot of you probably got your property assessments. Everyone should have by now. I know I got mine. If you recall, we sent out a notice, a press release with the city of Dalton in May, letting everyone know that what the increase would be, and that we're on the record, both the city of Dalton and Whitfield County, that we plan to roll the millage rate back once all those calculations and appeals are in. On that note, you have until August 1st to appeal. So regardless of whether we do a rollback or not, you can always appeal if you think your property was unfairly assessed. And just as a reminder, the Board of Assessors is separate from the Board of Commissioners. We can't give them direction or hire or fire them. They are their separate entity and set the rate separately from us. There is some additional relief this year on top of us rolling back the millage rate, which we will do hopefully in August. The state has passed 25,000 additional exemption for homeowners, so that's an additional, several percentage points savings off of what you would normally get for your homestead, depending on where you are, whether you're a senior or not. And talking about the seniors, there's a ballot initiative. This will be for 2024. It won't help you for this year, but there is a ballot initiative in November for the seniors for the county tax to be exempted based on your age and a certain homestead value. So that is coming up, which will be some additional relief. We still want to put a cap, or at least I personally would like to see a cap on everyone, not just the seniors. So we have that legislation ready. I hope our representatives will drop that next year. So call them and tell them they want to drop the local legislation, because we would put that on the ballot and you would have a chance to vote on that next year. But they did not drop it this year. And then another reminder, we covered this last month, our SPLOST committee. We hope to get that finalized. We've started to get feedback from the cities and towns on their representative, their citizen representatives. Each commissioner needs to review your candidates. Some of you appointed them, some of you are new, like myself, and did not appoint. So if we need to replace people, some people don't want to do it again. So we just need to get all those names, or if you would like to serve, because like I said, we will have a few openings for people that aren't interested or have moved out of the county. You can get those names to Bob. It's still not too late. We want to get that wrapped up this month and start our meetings in August with the projects and the plans for a vote in 2024. That's it for me. Commissioner Jones? Anything for you, Commissioner Thomas?
No.
Commissioner Staton?
Yeah, I'd just like to give a quick shout out to our buildings and grounds and rec departments. I've been on the ball field with my youngest past 2 weekends, and I've seen more out-of-state tags coming to this county than I've ever seen in 15 or 16 years,
Are we beating those teams?
most of the time.
Okay, good. Commissioner Robbins?
I don't have a report.
All right. Our county administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, members of the public that are here tonight and watching at home on Facebook. I also want to thank the senior county staff for being here. I should note that shortly before the meeting, I received a text message from Emergency Management Director Dave Metcalf. He said he could not be at the meeting because he had the unmitigated gall to say it was his wife's birthday and he was going to take her out to dinner. So.
Unexcused absence.
I know, unexcused absence. I'll pass that along. I have two items to discuss tonight. The first is the comprehensive plan committee meetings. The next one is coming up very quickly. It's Thursday the 20th at 6 p.m. It's at Dalton State at the People's Auditorium. Obviously, that's open to the public. I don't know what the topic will be. If Jake knows, perhaps he can give me a sneak peek. Housing issues. That's right, because Believe Greater Dalton will be making a presentation. The other thing is the Georgia Mountain Cruise and Car Show. If you love classic cars, and who doesn't, that will be Thursday, July 27th to Saturday, July 29th at the Convention Center up there on the hill. Please attend that as well. They have some beautiful vehicles there, and not just the cars that you normally see at these types of shows, but they have some odd ones from Europe and other places. So it's always a good time for everybody in the family. The third thing, and I'll ask for a point of personal privilege, Mr. Chairman, is Ben Kennemer is here tonight, as Sheriff Chitwood had alluded to. Ben is the Conasauga Judicial District District Attorney designate. He's not yet taken the oath of office. We're still waiting on Governor Kemp for that. But Ben, if you want to come forward and introduce yourself, maybe say a few words if you'd like.
Sure. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity.
Microphone.
As Mr. Civic indicated, my name is Ben Kinnemer. I am going to be hopefully soon sworn in by Governor Kemp. He did call me with a date, and unfortunately, that's the date we always have training for summer conference down at Jekyll. All your prosecutors around the state, the third week in July, we're always at Jekyll. Governor, I have to ask you with all respect if I can ask for another date. So I'm waiting on that. I'm happy to get started. I'm also happy to report that, a big concern for our office was going to be the other person that was being considered was Chief Assistant District Attorney, Mr. Scott Helton. And Scott's going to stay on with us as my chief assistant, and will continue to work hard for all of the citizens of our community. I do thank you all for the opportunity. More importantly, I want to work with you in the future to make sure that this is certainly public safety is priority one for Whitfield County. It certainly will be for me. I've been in this office for 17 years and will always continue to be here in my hometown. It's the only job I've ever had, and I'm glad to have that. I certainly thank you for your time and attention.
Thanks for coming.
And I also want to give a shout out to Ben. Since the announcement was made from the governor's office, Ben has been very proactive, has met with me, with the county attorney, Mr. Smalley, with HR, with finance, because the budget season's coming up or as it's known widely as Christmas for accountants. So they're all looking forward to that. But Ben knows that there's some things that he will get what he needs, maybe a few things that he wants, but he's been very cooperative and a lot of communication there. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Our finance report, Mr. Garvin.
It's green outside and it's green on the graph. I was trying to think of a corny joke to make. And it's hotter than blazes outside, but at least you don't see that on the graph this month. In the last down arrow, you tend to want to think that it ought to be red, but that indicates that we're just barely below projected expenditures through this point in time of the year. So that's actually good. And our local option sales tax and TAVT are up. Lost is up a little bit. I mean, anything is good, 1.5% there. And the TAVT auto sales, I saw an article in one of the financial publications, and you're starting to see articles leak out, surface like a groundhog or something, and they're talking about, are we going to have this recession? And everyone, logically and reasonably, when you look at the finances, it should have happened and it should happen, and it may yet. So far, it is not. In vehicle sales, you see the indicator and the proof right there are just high. They're just up. And 3.75% may not seem like much, but over last year and what you would expect, it is good. And so here, our total 23 actual, the first column there versus 22 of total revenue year to date. And above the middle column of projections, we're doing well there so far. Yes, okay. And then total expenditures, we are just barely, basically, statistically, we're in line with projections. But if anything, if you come in a little bit below, that's kudos to all of us for the group effort. And of course, we would be higher than last year with inflationary costs, your salaries and benefits to pay the folks to do the job. And we have mentioned before, very valuable, the library system. But we took that in from a special tax district into the general fund, the results of which we're highlighting here. So you've got a substantial expenditure increase over last year. And then year-to-date versus budget expenditures there, that number, again, is just barely below what was projected, which nets to a positive. And so you have a projected surplus if everything were to remain the same, and through this point in time of the 1.8 million, almost 1.9 million. So our unassigned fund balance, as we talk about, if nothing were to change, we would look at 34.4 million if we close the books right now. Our actual is 29.8. We talk about that it drops. We siphon off cash through the year. We've got our expenditures, and our major property tax revenue comes in at the end of our fiscal year. But we're in good shape right now. And then our 2020 SPLOST revenue runs through September of next year. These things take time, and the board and the special commissions are already gearing up for what we might want to do and what voters might approve. But for the current SPLOST, we've got the 58.1 million to date received. We had mentioned last month also that our bond debt service, principal and interest for this year will be paid in October. We have served that debt. We've paid for it and set it aside in the right-hand column. And so we have, for the rest of this year, what receipts do come in can go toward our pay-go projects, the latter projects we're working on now.
Any questions for Mr. Garvin? Motion to approve the finance as presented. Motion by Commissioner Jones. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Robbins. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Pass it on to floor to vote. Thank you. All right, it's now time for public comments. Anything that you see on the agenda, including the items that we added at the beginning. We're happy to hear public comments on agenda items. Any comments? All right, we have, first item is to appoint or reappoint 2 individuals to the Dalton Whitfield County Public Library. Commissioner Robbins is our liaison there. I assume these people are showing up and doing their level best to serve the library.
And based on that, I make the motion that we accept the names presented.
Motion to approve the 2 names presented to reappoint them for a 3-year term to the library. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Thomas. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 4-0 vote. These are the alcohol and beverage permits. Not as controversial as the last month or so with these 2. Both have passed the background checks. There's no issue with church or schools. Didn't have any public comments on them. Is there a motion to approve these 2 beverage applications?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Staton. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Jones. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 4-0 vote. This is a lengthy one. Sorry for all the verbiage there, but I want to make sure everyone understood that we have a merit system for some of the employees in Whitfield County, but not all. And it's just a way to make sure all employees are treated equally, and that if they have a grievance or if they are written up for performance issues, that they have a very consistent way to handle that. And our judges have requested that their employees, and I'll list all the eligible employees there. It's a long list. Basically, it's most of the courthouse with just a couple of exceptions for the court administrator, the juvenile court judge, and the mental health employees that are part of Murray County. So we can't put them into a Whitfield County merit board. But pretty much all the rest of the employees in the courthouse would be put under there. That was the majority decision by the judges, but it's up to us to decide if we want to do that.
I make a motion to approve.
Comments? Motion by Commissioner Staton to approve putting them under the merit system. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Thomas. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 4-0 vote. Also for the Superior Court, there's an interpreter contract. Now the contract we already approved earlier this year. I think it was either January or February. But the individual, Mr. Williams, is stepping down and would like his assistant, longtime employee, to take over that contract. So no change, but we do need him in the contract just for the person doing the interpreting will be changed, but not the dollars or the finance. Is there a motion for me to amend and change that contract? Motion by Commissioner Jones. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Staton. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 4-0 vote. It's time for a little more than annual, it runs a little, I think 18 months, 16 months, something like that, striping. So those are all the yellow and white lines and reflective materials on Whitfield County roads. It's charged by mile, so depending on the type of striping, it ranges from $400 to $2,800 per mile to do that. So this will be a approval for CR Coating LLC. They were the low bidder. There were a few other bids out there, if you guys had a chance to review those. Any comments or questions about this?
Do we do any
For the staff?
striping in public works at all? I thought we-
Outsourced, I should say.
I mean, I thought we did some in-house striping.
Well, we just had one bid. He's thinking.
I know since I've been here, we've been doing the striping. I don't know if we've ever done it in-house.
I will tell you, we're back behind how many positions in Public Works? We're down 12 people, so I mean, we need to get the work done, and I would prefer to do it in-house, but
Don't have the staff.
it is tough to hire people, particularly in a hot Georgia summer, to go out there and,
So we did used to do it in-house.
I believe so. Yeah.
Wow, not since I've been on the board, so, but it's,
And this is something where they have the equipment and the expertise, and they get out there and they knock it out, and it doesn't take our staff away from maintaining the roads, which is what most people want. I mean, they want the striping too, but they don't like the potholes.
Just ensuring it's not cost prohibitive.
yeah.
Well, it's only,
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Jones to approve the contract with CR Coating LLC. Is there a second?
second.
Second by Commissioner Thomas. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 4-0 vote. Our big ticket item, which only comes up every 30 years, so that's the positive, but the negative is it's really expensive to re-roof the entire jail, 86,000 square feet. This is I will say we went with the highest quality material, so we can get a 30-year warranty. It's extremely thick. It's the membrane, which is energy efficient, good insulation properties. There's a lot of leaks in it. I think we got over 30 years, right at 30 years on the current roof. That's how old the jail is. It was in 96?
It's 23 years old.
23 years old, okay. It was in 2000 when they put the roof on? Oh.
Yeah, it's the original roof.
So this is a 30-year, we have a warranty, so it would be covered for the entire 30 years this time. This will be charged to our SPLOS. We had money for our law enforcement center / jail in the SPLOS, so we can charge it to our SPLOS with the excess revenue that we have there. We have fixed some of the locking mechanisms and cameras and all that a few years back, so this is part of that.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Jones to approve. Second by Commissioner Staton. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 4-0 vote. And they're supposed to get that on by before the end of the year, so that will be good, because there are some leaks in there. Some annexations. First one is for Varnell. Just a single parcel, and no land use objections were noted. Motion to approve the annexation for Varnell.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Thomas, second. Second by Commissioner Jones. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 4-0 vote. And Tunnel Hill had 3 parcels to annex to their city limits, and no, I think I forgot to list all 3 of those, but it would be for A, B, and C. They're listed above all 3 of those parcels.
Mr. Chairman, there was one that Blake Griffin had indicated that the city of Tunnel Hill, if approved, the one that was going to change from a R5 residential to a commercial designation, that they would enforce the county buffer requirements.
That's on the agenda for later.
I don't think so.
I believe that's one of these 3. Is that right, Jake? It's all 3. All 3 of these are that one?
3 different parcels for the same thing.
Okay. Then it's,
Oh, really?
So I just wanted to advise the board that you can, if you want the county's buffer requirement to be enforced, then Tunnel Hill has agreed that they would do so.
Because they're not part of our normal zoning.
They're not part of the.
Varnell is,
zoning.
and Dalton is, but not
That's correct.
Tunnel Hill, so that's the distinction.
So you
So
can, I wanted to advise you that
they would honor it.
they would honor it if you make it contingent upon your annexation decision contingent upon that.
John, does everything look like it's in order to you?
Best I can tell, I looked it over, but
Yeah. A motion to approve these 3 parcels with the zoning contingency.
Motion to
Buffer
approve.
Buffer, yeah.
Yeah, with the buffer.
Motion by Commissioner Staton, is there a second? Second by Commissioner Jones. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 4-0 vote. So I split up these first 3 are fairly straightforward. I don't recall any public comment or against them. They all passed 5-0. Rezoning C2 to R5, rezoning general ag to M2, and R5 to GA.
I need to stay out of the first one. So if we can do that.
Oh, you need to recuse yourself? Okay.
Yep.
We'll take the first one. Commissioner Thomas recuses himself from the one for Brian Spence.
I make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Robbins, second by Commissioner Jones to approve the rezone to R5. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed? Passes on a 3-0 vote. Okay, hopefully we can take these 2 together. Michael Hill and Hunter and Hannah Painter.
Make a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Robbins to approve. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Thomas. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 4-0 vote. And this one, this person would like to purchase this and rezone it from M2 to GA. If you recall, The couple came in front of us to ask for a special use permit, which for another property, but this one seems to be much more appropriate because it meets the GA requirements of 5 acres, being at 6.9.
Motion to approve.
Is that a motion to approve the rezone and the special use?
Yes, sir. Combine them together.
Motion
Second.
by Commissioner Staton, second by Commissioner Robbins to approve both. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 4-0 vote. There was one item that was withdrawn. There was a lot of discussion during the planning and zoning meeting, but I'm happy to report there was a successful resolution to that, the one that the lady had her home invaded by a car that left the road. So she will be able to replace that as long as she stays with 3 bedrooms, not related to the square footage. So she withdrew that because she was more than happy to keep it with 3 bedrooms.
And it didn't have to come before that.
It doesn't need to come before us. She doesn't have to rezone it at all, so the people that were against the rezone, it will stay exactly as it is zoned today.
That's right.
So hopefully that's a win-win. This is one of the items that we added for the opioid expenditures. You've seen us accept the opioid funds from the lawsuits. There's multiple lawsuits that we're a party to and have starting to receive the settlement money. So this is actually spending the money, which there are strings attached to it, unfortunately, but it's a well use of the money to hire these drug counselors. We're buying software, putting security into the building so they can see clients and hopefully help people recover from these terrible addictions that we see. Murray County will also join with us and use some of their monies to help fund it, starting with 2 individuals. And like I said, we'll provide the space and the security over there for them as well. Is there a motion to?
Murray County will be providing space for 1 day a week.
Okay, so they'll go back
Yeah,
and forth.
right.
Perfect. Okay, great. I know they're providing money, but I didn't know about the space. Any questions about this or discussion? Is there a motion to approve the opioid expenditures? Motion by Commissioner Jones. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Robbins. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 4-0 vote. This is the zoning appeal, so if you don't like what is either approved or denied, you can go to the zoning appeals and ask for relief. And Debbie Peppers is leaving Whitfield County, so we would like to appoint Tally Williams. She's a award-winning realtor from the area, and she will take her place. Again, they don't have a ton of appeals, I don't believe, but when they do, we have to have a board and they have to hear the appeal. Is there a motion to approve Ms. Williams? Motion by Commissioner Jones. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Thomas. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 4-0 vote. And this is just a change from Carol to Debbie Godfrey for the Bank of Ozark Signature Authority. I just have to sign that, and Debbie has to sign that.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Staton. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Robbins. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 4-0 vote. All right, we open the floor to public comments on any items, not just the ones we just covered. So, we know you, but state your name and address for the record.
I do need to?
Yes, please.
Okay. Stacy Doran, 3208 Wright Road, Rocky Face. Good evening. I'm back to address the way we vote here in Whitfield County. And specifically, I want to address the report that came out a couple weeks ago that has been under seal by the Curley v. Raffensperger court case. It is now unsealed. However, our Secretary of State has had it in his hands. He's been aware of the information in it for over 2 years. So Alex Halderman and his team were allowed access to the Dominion machines. He is a University of Michigan computer science and engineering professor. He is an expert witness for the case. He got access to the Dominion voting machine. And in this study, and documented as part of this case, he shows that the ICX, which is the BMD, which is where you stand as a voter and you select your voting choices, it suffers from critical vulnerabilities that can be exhibited to subvert all of its security mechanisms. These vulnerabilities provide multiple routes by which attackers can install malicious software, either with temporary physical access or remotely from the EMS. Such malware can alter votes that the voters vote while subverting all procedural protections practiced by the state. The attackers can alter the QR codes, which is how our votes are calculated by these machines on the printed ballots. The software update that Georgia installed in October of 2020 left them in a state where anyone can install malware with only brief physical access to the machines. I want to just skip down. It's a 96-page report. Those are pretty concerning. If you know, you don't even have to know anything about a computer system to understand the significance of this. But lastly, I'll just say this. An attacker who infiltrates a county's EMS can modify the county's ICX.data file before it's copied to USB drives, and thereby spread malware to all BMDs in the county. At Dominion, an attacker who infiltrates the facility where Dominion prepares election projects can modify election definitions that are distributed to every Georgia county and spreading this across all counties, all machines. Georgia's the only state in the country that has Dominion machines in every county where votes are cast, but I'm only concerned about Whitfield County. It's where I grew up, it's where I went to school, it's where my kids go to school, it's where I work. We need to be concerned about this. I'm a little concerned. I realize the Secretary of State has continuing to send propaganda to the counties, one where he tries to rebuke this Halderman report by expert witnesses by a group called the MITRE Report, who was funded by Dominion. The report wasn't signed, and they never even touched the machines. So you can take that with a grain of salt, their opinion on this matter. Secondly, the fact that our county attorney has responded and basically just copied verbatim the Secretary of State's argument against why we as a county cannot choose to do something different and no longer use these vulnerable, insecure, hackable machines. And specifically, what the Secretary of State and our county attorney has repeated is part one of a 4-paragraph code, 21-2-300. I have it here. This is our entire Georgia election code. This is all the laws of Georgia election. 21-2-300, that's getting quoted by Secretary of State, says the equipment used for casting and counting votes in the county, state, and federal elections shall be the same in each county in this state and shall be provided to each county by the state as determined by the Secretary of State. And it just gets stopped there. There are 4 additional paragraphs. Paragraph 2 goes on to read, as soon as possible, once such equipment is certified by the Secretary of State as safe and practicable for use, all federal, state, and county general primaries and elections, as well as special primaries and special elections in the state, shall be conducted with the use of scanning ballots marked by electronic ballot markers and tabulated by the ballot scanners for voting at polls and for absentee ballots cast in person, comma, unless otherwise authorized by law. That's interesting. It goes on. I know we don't have time for me to read all that. I just want to reiterate the other unless otherwise allowed by law sections, one being 21-2-334 that says, if for any other reason at any primary or election the use of voting machines wholly or in part is not practicable, the superintendent may arrange to have voting for such candidates or offices, such questions conducted by paper ballots. That's what I'm here to say is the only secure, transparent, fully auditable, simple, not overly complex. It reduces our costs. It reduces the logistics of having to lug machines to every precinct and lug them back, secure them. It's just common sense. And the reason, how and why we're being fought on this from our state is unbelievable. And then 21-2-366 grants this governing body, the county commissioners, the ability to choose to use a optical scanner to count the votes. So please consider this. It's important. Our county matters. The government exists to protect the citizens' rights, not to attack them or cause us to lose them. So thank you.
Additional comments?
Darrell Long. Y'all approved a zoning thing
for a piece of property on Hill Road in Resaca. I think that property is located right across the road from Antioch School, which is not in Resaca. So, you know, when we approve stuff, we ought to kind of get our paperwork right. And number two, the lady that her trailer got hit by a car said that this has happened several times, that cars has come in there and hit stuff on her property. Would be my suggestion that we go that little extra and put that young lady a guardrail up.
Additional public comments?
Harvey Wysong, 346 Summer Road, Tunnel Hill. Like Mrs. Duran, I'm gravely concerned about the election. The voting transparencies, the accuracy. Who's going to certify this? If we're using these machines, I wouldn't put my signature on that for anything. I wouldn't swear that those machines are giving us an accurate count. There are too many places along the way. What happens, you know, I run the Harvey Wysong polling company that walks around and talks to people. And people tell me they don't believe that the voting systems or the votes, the elections in this country are honestly reported. That's just the Joe average guy on the street or in the restaurant, wherever I go. I'd like to tell you what happens when the public lose confidence in the elections. It happened once back in the reign of Emperor Ptolemy V in Egypt. You remember Napoleon's troops found a big red tablet in Egypt when his army was over there. And he put it on a French ship, and the English captured that ship, and now it resides in London instead of Paris, and certainly not Cairo. But it was a big tablet, and it's called the Rosetta Stone, and it was used to break the code of the Egyptian hieroglyphs. Nobody knew what those hieroglyphs said. But there was one message written in 3 languages: Greek, Coptic, and hieroglyphics. And they finally broke the code. So when you mention the Rosetta Stone to people today, if they've studied history, they'll say, oh yeah, that's the key to understanding something in figurative language. But what was written on the Rosetta Stone? Anybody ever heard that? Only person I've ever met that had an idea of what was on there was about 20 years ago at a homeschooling convention. A 12-year-old girl knew the answer. It was a public announcement put in all of the temples around Egypt. It was a proclamation of forgiveness for taxes not paid. All the people that were in jail for not paying their taxes were released. All the soldiers that had deserted were welcomed back with no penalties. All the land that had been confiscated. Why did they do that? Because the country had fallen apart. The people had lost confidence. They left. The same thing happened to the Roman Empire. The people just quit caring, and they walked off. The Romans didn't have an army. They didn't have a will to fight anymore, and the Goths came in and took over. Now, that can happen to this country, and it's about to happen now. There are a lot of people that don't show up to vote because they don't believe that the system is honest. They don't believe their vote's going to count. Not really. They don't have a voice in government. They don't believe. And I have no confidence when I go over to the Tunnel Hill precinct and cast a vote. I have no belief that, no reliable belief that it's going to be counted the way I voted. And whatever you do, specifically, I don't know. But I think that you gentlemen need to take the offensive. Look into this on your own. Not wait for someone else to take the initiative, and get this thing straightened out. And as Mrs. Duran said, the only thing we can really trust is paper ballots. You can't trust this. You know, back in the Middle Ages, they had these little black boxes that would go around and solve mathematical problems, and they'd go from town to town. And what no one ever knew was that there was a midget inside the black box who was extremely good at mathematics. Well, today, the midget inside the black box lives in Spain or China or Germany or maybe Milwaukee, and he's given us the answers. But those machines are not secure. Somebody besides me is voting for me, and I'd like for him to quit. Oh, so I'm encouraging you, get curious about this, study this, and you've been placed in leadership here in this community, and I'd like to see you set an example of what leadership should be in a county commission. I appreciate everything you do. That's it.
Hello, gentlemen. My name's David Obenauer. I live at 1800 Huntington Woods Way. And a couple years ago, you were hearing all kinds of things about elections, and I was curious. And part of this community, wanted to give to the community and also wanted to learn about it. So I went and signed up with Miss Mary and have had a good time the last couple of elections, working with the people at the precincts and kind of going through all that. And the training they give is very good. The Whitfield County Election Board has a very, very rigorous way of they conducting their elections. And the training is very good. We go through, and nobody is let go. And everybody has somebody else looking over their shoulder, and there's checks and balances and counterbalances and everything that goes on. And they tell us what to tell the people when they come in with their IDs and everything else, and how we verify who they are. And if we can't verify who they are, provisional, may not count, but we'll go through the whole thing. And one of the things that we're told to tell them is if we're standing at the collection box, after they've gone to the machine and put everything in that they're voting for, and the machine tells them, check your vote. Is this who you wanted? Before you push the button, make sure this is who you wanted. And they print it out and they go there. Yet we still stand at the box and say, look at your printout. Make sure it's who you voted for. And the reason is because you can't believe what's on that QR code because you can't read it. And those people are told to look at that paper ballot, but it doesn't count. Only the QR code counts. Why? What does a QR code do? Absolutely nothing. It does not add anything to that process. And so I'm proud to serve with these people. And this county is clean. Those people are above reproach, but we've been given a box that's questionable. Thank you.
Any other comments?
How y'all? Good. My name's Timothy Daniel, live in Barnell. I have a couple of questions here about the SPLOST committee. Aren't you in charge of that, Mr. Civic?
Well, you can, I won't be in charge of it, but I'm certainly in charge of receiving interest from people.
Volunteers, yeah.
Okay, all right. Who's on it now?
We don't have anybody on it now. That will come before the BOC in August, and they'll approve the committee members.
Still no list.
Okay. What I would like to see, just out of curiosity, you were looking what essentially for volunteers, is that correct?
Right.
Could we see who volunteers and who was selected and reasons for disqualifications?
Well, no one's going to be disqualified. That's,
Well, can we see the list when you get it?
if you want to make a request, you can go ahead and do that. But what
Make
you
a
should do, if you want to go ahead and serve on the SPLOST committee, send me an email telling me why.
Tell you why?
Yeah, tell me why. You know, most people will say, I have an interest in this, or I have experience in serving on the school board, or whatever it may be,
Oh, okay.
okay? So what happens then is the Board of Commissioners makes the final decision, and they go ahead and approve that committee.
Okay. All right. A couple of things in my head going around. Your striping business. Several years ago, I drove a school bus, and I noticed one day on my route that there was fresh markings. And I thought, oh, cool, I can see the road in the morning. 4 o'clock in the morning, I can see the roads. Comes the rain, next rain, there's all this paint going off the road. I don't know what kind of cheap paint y'all using or used, but I would think it's very important. Lane markings, yeah. Please use good paint, doesn't wash off. Thank you. Yeah. To the entire board. Mr. Staton had a quick report about a ball field.
Yes,
When you ask for reports,
yes, sir.
what do y'all report otherwise? Problems, solutions, what? What is your normal report, if any? You asked for a report, didn't you? Yes. And nobody had a report. But you work for the county. We don't have any problems?
I have reports occasionally when I attend library board meetings, and I report that since we have taken the library out of the special tax district, that the library has now increased funding, and they have increased their hours, and they're doing very well, as a matter of fact. So I have presented that report last month, based on a board meeting that I attended. So I don't have a board meeting every month, but the library does have a occasional board meeting. They're announced, and you're welcome to attend those if you'd like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else want to chime in on no report or a report pending?
No report this month.
Who you working for?
Well, each
You
board
don't have a
we
report?
each
You
board
working for
doesn't meet.
somebody else or the taxpayers?
We have a lot of interactions, or I do, with individual constituents. I don't make a report of it, I just pass that on to Mr. Civic
To our staff,
for,
yeah.
you know, and
Okay.
they take care of it.
All right.
We all do that.
Yeah,
Yep.
houses that are, dangerous, or other issues on the roads, and potholes, I turn in potholes, but yeah, we don't make a big deal out of those.
Okay.
There's nothing that makes a report by commissioners mandatory. Oftentimes what they'll do is,
He asked for reports, and I didn't hear anybody say anything about reports. So,
but they
I'm
don't
moving on
have, they
here.
don't have to give
I'm
a
moving on.
report. As Mr. Thomas said, what they do is they hire people to manage the county's affairs. So if someone has a complaint about a pothole or whatever it may be, that's usually funneled through me, and it goes to Public Works or whatever it may be. So that's generally how the county is managed. The 5 people up here, what they do is they make policy. The biggest policy decision they make is the budget, but the day-to-day management of the county is not handled by the 5 people up here, because quite honestly, they wouldn't be able to do it with all the functions and services that the county provides. So there's a hierarchy, and there's a chain of command, and there's communication up and down that chain. But as far as these meetings go, it's up to the individual commissioners if they want to highlight something. They're not required to do so.
Right.
And
Well,
the
I
fact that they may not do so is not indicative that they don't care or they're not doing anything.
I did not see no entry for trucks there on Sonia Drive from Rauschenberg out to Highway 201. we've had some idiot trucks try to turn left onto 201, and I've asked you both about a no truck sign. Have you completed this job, my request? Oh, I can give you an email if you're questioning, did I send it?
I've processed other requests. I don't know if you sent it to me. I don't know.
Probably get a lot of stuff in the email and so on, a lot of phone calls, you know, just a simple request, no trucks allowed.
Well, there's state laws that sometimes we can't.
Well, this is county property. You can stop a truck from driving on that road.
I know that's a terrible place for a truck to try to pull out and turn left.
Mr. Mumbles, you're gonna have to speak up.
Hey, no personal attacks.
I said that's a terrible place for a truck to pull out.
It is. It's an ignorant place for a truck to try to do a left-hand turn.
That's not even a good place
So
for a
it-
car to pull
what they
out a
call that,
left-hand turn.
proactive rather than reactive. Yeah, I thought y'all were gonna be proactive in so many things in this county. Now you have to be reactive.
Okay. Anything else? We need to, we have a 5-minute time limit.
Yeah, do we have to turn to inked votes like they did over in the desert place? Inked votes with thumbprints. Remember that TV section? Is that what we're coming to? Thumbprint votes? Please get rid of those machines.
Any other public comments?
My name is William Epps. I live at 512 Williamsburg Drive in Dalton. And I would like to add something positive. I have been going to the Board of Elections meetings for about the last 6 months or so. As you know, we've had a new supervisor start this year. Had numerous comments with her. I have been asking and requesting that they verify the voter rolls, to little and no avail. Well, 2 months ago, I presented to her 45 voters on the roll that are the oldest people on the voter rolls, anywhere from 99 to 100 and whatever. Out of those 45 names, she found 11 that had deceased. 5 people that had never voted. And I said to her, you realize that's an over 20% error rate in just a random sample. She said, you're right. I said, there's no way you can certify an election when you've got this kind of error rate. And she said, I agree. And as of a month ago, she has started reviewing the voter rolls for Whitfield County. Sparky said to me, I've been on the board for 26 years. I've never seen this happen before. So persistence of going to people, and I didn't argue about fraud, I just said, how do you know that these people are active on the voter rolls? Everybody moves 3 or 4 years. These people have been on there for, I mean, one of them is on there, they had his birth date of 1800. 2 of them were 1900. Of course, that was an error. I said, well, how many more errors are there? But my compliments to her in the fact that she's willing to address the voter rolls. So I see something good coming out of the Board of Elections here. And I just wanted to pass that on, that we can continue to encourage her to verify that we have accurate voter rolls.
Thank you.
Any other final comments? Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion by Commissioner Jones. We're adjourned.
Mr. Staten, I'll see you in 2 weeks. Yes, sir. I hope your shoulder gets better or continues to improve.